Please rise. Pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Kushner, not present. Osborne,
Here.
Latari. Here. Jones,
Here.
Euler.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to approve minutes of city council retreat dated July 23rd, 2025. Minutes of city council retreat dated July 24th, 2025. And regular city council meeting dated July 28th, 2025.
Move to
approve. Sorry, I beat you.
Yes, you did.
Osborne,
Yes.
Latari.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adoption of agenda.
Motion to approve agenda.
Osborne,
Yes.
Latari.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Presentation of the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget presented by Michael D. Scragg, City Manager, Warrensburg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to apologize in advance. There's a lot of detail here. Told Councilwoman Latari, this is fun for me, so I'm enjoying kind of getting a good understanding of our finances. I need to start with acknowledging Kristen Dorman, Assistant City Manager, and Jessica Benfro. She here? She is in particular. They not only did they put in a lot of work, but they were one step ahead of me, made it so easy for me to kind of dial into what are the key issues, and I've never had a process be so supportive. So, and then I also need to acknowledge the patience of the department heads, both in terms of kind of resigning themselves to a flat budget and this process. There's a lot of detail, but it did take a lot of time. So. And then one last thing, and I'll jump in. There is a lot of information here. You may have seen in my council letter. I've thrown out the possibility of another day of retreat or a conversation if that's something that you'd like. My intention is to go over this in detail for the benefit of the public and your benefit as well. But you might bear in mind whether we want to have one more round of conversation, and I'll touch on that at the end. And then you're certainly welcome to stop me at any point with any questions you might have. But like I said, there's a lot of detail in the documents, and then I think we'll have an opportunity to kind of go into greater detail if you want to meet. And I said one last thing, but one more thing. So there is one particular document that we developed that I've started referring to as the comprehensive financial model, and it's a spreadsheet that was broken up in the packet. Tried to make it workable for you by topic, but it projects out to the year 2050. Well, with Barb Carroll's help, and the community development plotter, we were able to print it as one spreadsheet and then hanging on the back wall. So
Gosh.
if anybody wants to see it, or if the public wants to take a look at it, instead of being broken across pages with groups of years, it's all as I kind of see it on my screen as we put it together. So with that, I will jump in. The agenda and kind of the purpose for this presentation tonight is to provide you a high-level summary of the proposed budget for fiscal year 26, provide a citywide budget at a glance, a snapshot of our major funds, key highlights and budget changes, the comprehensive financial model overview that I mentioned. And then we wanted to touch on initial priorities that kind of drove this process for us a little bit. Being new myself and Kristen being relatively new, there was a need for, and this is an opportunity to do a thorough review of our budget and financial status. We were able to look at past practices, ongoing projects, needs, and challenges that we're facing. Budget stabilization, it was a priority just in terms of kind of conversations we've had so far and the financial position we found ourselves in. Developing that financial big picture. Wanted it, as I mentioned to you in our retreat, wanted that to be comprehensive, looking at our revenue sources, our ongoing commitments, our financial hurdles, wanted it to be forward-looking and strategic, and we think we're bringing to you better informed budget decisions on a year-to-year basis. you can see that big picture and you have a better sense of what the future might look like, then you feel more comfortable making some difficult decisions in the short run. So the budget development process, the budget team prepared revenue forecasts and expenditure estimates for a base budget, and that's been complete, and we've gone over that with you. The departments were asked to submit budgets to the city manager, and that's complete, and they were asked to essentially bring us a flat budget. There was some discussion about essential needs and wants, but a recognition that until further notice or until we kind of had a better sense of things and based on the revenue projections, they needed to be flat budgets. We had the council budget retreat, and this evening is the presentation of the draft budget. Our next meeting, August 25th, would be the opportunity for public comment and a first reading by the city council. And then on September 8th would be the second reading by the city council on budget adoption. And so following this, I envision that there's going to be additional staff work. First and foremost, city manager's office meeting with the department heads, reviewing it for accuracy, reviewing any noteworthy things that stand out in the supplemental budget charts. And I realize there are a lot of those there. I don't know that you'll see those every year, but that was really helpful for me to kind of graphically see our prior budgets and actuals compared to the 2026 budget. And as we discussed previously, try to identify gaps where thing that gets my attention the most is budgeting more than we're spending, and is that leaving money on the table and then ending up in our fund balance when we'd like to have a little bit more funding for our operational budget year to year. Refining the vehicle and equipment inventories, refining the comprehensive financial model and the replacement schedules, and finalizing the capital improvement plan coming out of that, responding to any questions that you might have, and then, as I mentioned, possible additional day of council retreat to go over all this. So, citywide budget summary, total expenditures in fiscal year 2026 are 67, almost $68 million. That sounds like a lot. 13 million of that is for personnel. 10 million of that is operating costs. $4.5 million of that is debt service. And $38.8 million of that is capital, particularly the sewer plant projects that are ongoing, the McGuire Street renovation, and then annual CIP items. So I assume somebody else knows what that means and it's not a problem. So when you back out the capital items, that kind of gets you back to our more normal annual operating budget. And there's not a lot of growth in that, which we've discussed, and we'll touch on it. Citywide items of note. On the revenue side, we're seeing small sales tax increases. We budgeted for 1% in comparison to previous years. We've historically had some good years. We're seeing the state numbers flatten out. We're seeing our own numbers flatten out. And we do have the level of detail that we can look at sales tax retailers, and have had the opportunity retailer by retailer to compare their year-to-date performance this year to the prior year. And it is noticeable in terms of a flattening or a softening of sales tax revenue growth, which informed our budget preparation. We budgeted for 3% property tax revenue increase based on assessed values and the way that rollback works. And on the expenses side, we did incorporate a 3% cost of living for all employees. I told you and the employees that's one of my highest priorities, and was glad to see that we were able to get that incorporated. We budgeted for 3% health insurance premium increase based on renewal information. So I think we're all collectively ecstatic with the 3% health insurance premium increase, and in any given year that could be 15 or 20. So don't know what the future might hold, but it's a good year in that regard. And then we budgeted for 15% property insurance increase. That is based on conversations with our insurance provider, and we don't have quotes just yet or market rates just yet, but that is kind of their assessment of the market right now. And the general fund side, just as kind of a breakdown of categories of expense, you can see there the biggest by far is wages and benefits. We are a service-oriented organization, so employees are our key resource and our key asset, and and that's where a lot of our expense goes. Then we have operating expenses, just keeping the lights on and streets repaired, those type of things. And then a little bit of capital outlay, and then transfers. Maybe you'd say that's not real money, but that's money being transferred from one fund to another. And I think it is important to recognize that that's a little bit different than revenue or expenditures, those other categories. So on the general fund side, our priorities were addressing slow revenue growth, which necessitated concentrating on financial stability instead of new initiatives. That's likely for the foreseeable future without some change with creating larger revenue growth. And the comprehensive financial model, it developed strategies regarding our larger future expenditures. And so that was a key focus. Tighter annual budgeting, and as I mentioned, so that we have less fund balance growth and year over year, and building carving out, maybe is a better way to describe it, capacity in the general fund in particular. We view this as preparing a true balanced budget in terms of the way that it is being reported, and trying to budget so that it can be replicated year to year as sustainable. So we budgeted for vacancies rather than full staffing across the organization. As we discussed previously, the departments remain authorized to hire to their authorized full staffing levels. So in their budgets, they will see an allocation that accounts for full staffing. And then there's a contra line item that essentially is our estimate of, I guess you would say, savings, or the amount of the value of those vacancies, just based on history, just running less than full staffing, retirements, turnover, the transition time as you have turnover, those type of things. And that is very hard to estimate on a department by department basis. It's not a whole lot easier to estimate citywide or by fund, but we are trying to do that based on history. And as we mentioned in the retreat, we do have some general fund capacity to kind of soften that if we miss the mark there. We reinstated line items to their true cost based on the historical actuals. So we're getting away from the use of encumbrances and pulling money forward, or pulling unspent money from one fiscal year forward to another fiscal year, just budgeting it straight up. And then if we budget a deficit, we recognize that we're spending that out of general fund reserve, and we'll have that conversation with you. Doing so creates a predictable baseline to build upon. We're looking for, I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm really looking to kind of solidify what we know about our expenses, what are our predictable ongoing expenses that we have to provide for, and then we kind of know where we're at relative to any funding requests, any new initiatives, those type of things. And then this also makes historical data more representative and useful as we go forward. If we're truly accounting for things as they occur and as they're accounted, and don't have encumbrances offsetting them, then as we look at 5 years from now, when we look back at our budget numbers, it'll be more representative, and it might make budgeting easier. So from a general fund highlight standpoint, you may recall that we started with an identified gap of $424,000 in the general fund. Happy to say that that has been closed. So that was done by relatively flat discretionary budgets from the departments, eliminating the lobbying services at the end of its contract year, splitting a public works project manager position between the wastewater pollution fund and the general fund, which that's kind of the workload they're doing anyway. So that's more representative of what's actually occurring. The vacancy credits that we talked about, and then the neighborhood improvement district, the Hawthorne neighborhood improvement district, where we assume those special assessments, has been historically paid out of the general fund operating. We're proposing that be paid as a expenditure out of the general fund reserves. It's kind of a one-off. Once it goes away, it won't be a recurring expense. It lets the general fund budget represent more of that recurring activity than that irregular expense. And then looking at expensing shared services across funds in future years. We haven't really done that in this budget, but I think we think that's an opportunity in future years to, again, try to stabilize the general fund. And then we budgeted to continue the service contract with retail strategies. I know that's been a conversation. I know that's of particular interest to you. And as we discussed, they have contacts, they have resources that are unique, and I think it's just going to be incumbent on me in particular to manage that contract to get the best of those services. Additional general fund highlights: the new projects or initiatives are being proposed to be for your consideration to be funded from the general fund reserve. And I would preface this with these are things that essentially we parked in the general fund reserve bucket for your consideration to kind of, again, have the general fund operating budget get boiled down to what it takes on a year-to-year basis to operate. So as I mentioned, the NID payments, housing study, we've talked about the housing study, and that is something that I recommend, and as it's presented to you, it is in the budget, but in a roundabout way is funded by general fund reserves. Hydraulic study, we also discussed that, and that's also something that I recommend, and that's the watershed analysis, primarily around the area in the southeast corner of McGuire and 50 Highway. That would support the growth that's likely to happen in that area. It also will kind of catch up to drainage that's already being sent through that watershed and may not have been hydraulically accounted for. So it's really just kind of trying to get ahead and get ready for growth. And then one thing that we pulled out in particular was a crisis communications plan from emergency management. Essentially, emergency operations plan in the event of an emergency felt like a priority and something that we're particularly recommending. So moving to water pollution control as a snapshot, here's a pie chart of it. And you'll see 23, almost 24 million, or 87% of that is capital outlay. 22 million of that is the sewer plants. And so I don't know that in and of itself is a kind of an accurate representation of the regular workings of the water pollution control fund. This is that same set of numbers with the sewer plant project backed out. So at that point, you can see that wages are about $1 million or 20%. Operating is about $1.5 million or 30%. Capital outlay is about 2 million, other than the sewer plants at 36%. And then transfers, primarily transfers to the general fund for kind of franchise type fees is 15%. And if I didn't say it already, be happy to print all of this and provide it to you if you like. So in the WPC, the highlights again are the proposed 3% rate increase, continuation of the inflow and infiltration repairs program, continuation of the manhole rehabilitation program, and then the plant expansion work. And then we have budgeted or proposing the enterprise lift station project. I know that got put off because of kind of the need to address sewer and the McGuire Street project. But looking at our finances, looking at reserve balances, it appears that there's sufficient funds there that we could fund that out of reserve, and it is a priority. On the solid waste fund, that's a newly created fund with standing up that service this year. So the vast majority of that, 92% of it, is the operating expenses. We're billing and collecting revenue and passing that through to our franchise hauler. And then we do have some staff that represent the wages portion of that. On the solid waste fund side, you may recall that there was budgeted in this year a general fund loan, essentially to get the program started and anticipation of a couple of things. So that loan was budgeted at $450,000. Part of that was a worst case scenario. Prior to us getting our provider stood up, the previous provider chose to discontinue services. There was some funding there to allow for the possibility of us having to kind of come up with an interim measure. But then there was also an anticipation of just cash flow between bills being sent out and payments being received and us having bills to pay. And so the current fiscal year 2025 estimate for that loan is $280,000. A couple things to note there. We have budgeted to offset an operating deficit within the general fund, and offsetting that with kind of the continuation of that general fund loan. We will have an opportunity to get into that in greater detail. You may have noticed on your agenda planner at the next meeting, we have solid waste. I'm sorry, I'm confusing sewer waste and solid waste. Solid waste policy discussion that we'll get into a little bit more detail. But the issue really is partially the collection percentage is lower than we anticipated. It looks like people are paying about 90% of the bills are being paid on time rather than 95%. And then we have a varying number of collection cycles in a fiscal year. They should catch up with each other, but as they break across the fiscal year and as you apply accrual counting methods, it's based on when that bill is sent, that kind of factors in as well. And so to staff's credit, Barb in particular, there was a recognition of that here looking forward. So we've had an opportunity to factor that into the budget and essentially continue, not pay off that front end loan immediately. It'll require ongoing monitoring and management, phased repayment of the loan, budgeting and rate setting, factoring in our billing and collections experience. But it is a manageable glide path. Since we have that general fund loan in place already, we can just apply some flexibility to the solid waste fund to transition into what we see as the performance of payments on the waste fund side. So other highlights, we're proposing a new transportation development district fund created to account for the closeout of those reimbursement funds for Hawthorne. And theoretically, somewhere out in the future, we could have another transportation development district, but at the moment, there's about $600,000 that were funds that need to be segregated for the purpose of spelled out in that transportation development district. As you may recall, the state apparently this is an issue statewide. The auditor's office pays attention to that. They've been in contact with us. We don't have any concerns because we haven't spent money at all, let alone for an inappropriate purpose. So what it does do though is create some funds that are available for either maintenance or improvements for the very specified purposes of that transportation development district. So that's something that's an opportunity for us to talk about how to use those in the future. And then we're reinstating the vehicle and equipment fund. It was on the books previously, but it didn't have a balance. As we talk about if we proceed with fleet management, then this will be a tool that we can use for that. On the parks fund side, the wages, you can see the pie chart there. Again, vast majority of that is wages and benefits, followed by operating expenses and capital outlays and some transfers to the general fund to reimburse general fund for some of the support that is provided to the Parks and Rec department. Highlights coming out of the Parks and Rec's plans are implementing a new entrance fee policy at the community center starting in the first of the year, reinstating the recreation superintendent position, larger wage increases because they have a number of positions that need to catch up to the minimum wage provision, and identified capital projects of a third phase of the Hawthorne Park Trail, Lions Lake parking lot, the outdoor pool feature restoration, cameras for the pool. And then we had some conversation about debt service reserve approach that's been modeled for the Parks and Rec's consideration. They do have about three things going on with the reserve balance, one being a sizable project they need to see where it comes in at. And then identifying what they want their restricted reserve balance to be, and then they can make some decisions about what to do with the rest of the debt service reserve. It's essentially at their discretion, but myself and Kristen and Jessica helped kind of model a scenario. So rolling to the comprehensive financial model overview. I view the purpose of that as being creating a comprehensive inventory of our needs, our plans, and our obligations. better informing our long-range planning, having a higher level of detail in terms of our planning. Probably one of the biggest things is having a shared vision amongst city manager's office, department heads, well, I have bullet points there, among staff, among the elected officials and the community. And then having a shared understanding of what we're planning to do, why we're doing something, why we're not doing something. What's the interrelationship between one particular funding request in a department or a priority project for you as a city council or a community member, how it fits into that bigger picture. I would tell you as a little bit of a side note, in Salina, we did a park master plan and it started with 187 items on it, and then it grew to 400 items. And as people would come in and say, well, I think we need, pick whatever project that was of particular interest to them. More often than not, I was able to say, yep, it's on the list. It's number 203. And we're working on number 18. And that then would foster a conversation about, well, how do we get moved up on the list? Well, you don't necessarily get moved up on the list, but we might be able to talk about a public-private partnership. And we were able to get buy-in when you had a recognition that the funds aren't endless. There are competing priorities. We do have a plan. And if you want to move things quicker that are of a priority to you, there's a way to do that. And it's not exactly the same, but fireworks is not something that's in our plan, but it might be an example of, if it's a priority, we can help you move that priority forward beyond just repeatedly asking us to do it 100% as the city. So it also then creates more informed short-term planning and budgeting. If you don't have a sense of how everything goes together and you don't have a sense of what the out years look like, you just get more conservative and more short-sighted, for lack of a better word, in that immediate planning. So having that bigger vision might give you confidence to do things in the short run, and then it just generally creates less confusion and frustration for all the reasons I just mentioned. So the contents of that and what I'm going to go over here are general obligation bonds, certificates of participation. So those are our debt that we've already committed to, can't get out of that. The transportation fund and what it looks like, the capital improvement sales tax fund, what it looks like, our general fund reserve, things that we might want to consider using general fund reserve on, the water pollution control fund, the reserve balance in that fund, the solid waste fund, parks and recreation debt service reserve fund. And then all of that with your input, as well as more collaboration with the department heads, can serve for a basis of capital improvement plan. So rather than having a capital improvement plan for you tonight, we have this comprehensive financial model. So on the general obligations side, this may be things you already know, but we have a GO bond issuance that was issued in 2017 and it pays off in 2027 for the fire department and street improvements in the amount of $5.5 million. We have an issuance in 2021 that will pay off in 2041 for the McGuire Street project in the amount of $5 million. And then the following year, another $12 million was issued. So you put those two together and that's the $17 million budget for McGuire. Of particular note here, it appears likely that there will be bond proceeds remaining after we get the McGuire Street project done. So that bond issuance was for street transportation improvements in general, not just necessarily McGuire Street. Kristen is the financial person that's monitoring all this, so I'll let her tell you the estimated amount.
Between interest income and savings on the project, we think there will be about $2 million that we could work with for other street projects or additions to that project.
So we haven't factored that into any of the rest of the numbers just yet, and we want the dust to settle a little bit more, but we know that that's kind of in the offing and something that we want to pay attention to. And then we are continuing to monitor the McGuire Street project to monitor costs and try to identify savings, but also then identify project elements that be sure are taken into account. On the certificates of participation side, there was a city hall improvements in the amount of 1.82 million, and I don't don't have the initial issuance dates. They were issued, they were refinanced, but they will pay off in 2029. And then there was similarly, that same issuance or refinancing at least, 1,125,000 for Hamilton Street improvements. And those will pay off in 2029 as well. So again, as an example, if we have that factored into this larger model, then, well, we may not have money this year, but we may have money in 2030 when we see some of our debt mature and we can apply it to something else, as an example. Capital Improvement Transportation Fund is funded by, well, it's in some of the other information you have, but it has some allocated funding sources and kind of a predictable annual revenue stream. So the model includes annual funding for the streets, curb and gutter, and ADA improvements in the amount of $1 million. And that spreadsheet is built with some assumptions about growth in terms of cost, expenses, as well as revenue. And it's just right now set at assuming 2.5% growth in revenue, 2.5% growth in expenses. So it essentially it continues to balance itself throughout the life of the month. If we, see changes, then we'll definitely have to react to that. And the model also includes assistance with our traffic signals. We pay about $50,000 a year to consultants that monitor, work on, reprogram the signals. I have to admit, I've been impressed with their knowledge and their level of detail about our system and our traffic and how much assistance they are to us in terms of maintaining the signals. There's $200,000 a year in there for sidewalk improvements. And in the model, that's continued through 2050. I don't know if I mentioned the model is built through 2050 primarily because some of our debt gets pretty close to 2050. But this model currently assumes sidewalk improvements for that entire time period. Seems likely to me that at some point we may, at spending that amount of money, we might actually catch up to our sidewalks, but I can't tell you what year that might be. And then there's also an assumption in there about pavement condition index assessment and then management software. That was done, I think, about 5 years ago. The technology is pretty impressive. A vehicle comes through and it drives every street in town. It takes pictures. It does an assessment of their condition, their failure, the type of failure. We had a demo from one software vendor, and it with their assistance and artificial intelligence can identify where each street segment is at on kind of its life cycle. You then can put factors into the model of traffic counts, or whether it's an arterial or a collector or residential street, your own priority system, your costs, and it will prepare a recommended pavement management plan and estimate the cost for you, or it'll do it in reverse and say, this is how much we have to spend. Here's what you can get done, and here's what your system will look like going forward. So very powerful tool, something that's a high priority for me as a recommendation, is to kind of improve our street system. And there's also a software that does ADA ramp assessment. It's actually more expensive. I think it's less automated and takes a lot more individual attention to those ramps. And then there's a software that does sidewalk assessment, and it's more expensive. Someone actually rides a scooter rather than drives a vehicle on the sidewalks. I think that's why that one costs more. So
You usually have 2 times the amount of sidewalk.
Well, good point. Yeah. So all of that at the moment is built into the model. The ADA ramp assessment, the sidewalk assessments are kind of a one-time thing. The PCI is a recurring review and then an ongoing fee for the software. And then Cedar Court repairs are in the 2026 budget. Remember that our budget year is October 1. So our intent is to complete those repairs yet in the 2025 calendar year, but that will put it in the 2026 fiscal year. And we budgeted $450,000 for the repair approach rather than $990,000 for the complete reconstruction approach. And we're hopeful that that number is conservative and we can come in under that. So this fund currently has a $2 million fund balance. The model spends that fund balance down over 10 years. And I would tell you that don't necessarily need a restricted fund balance amount in your street fund or your transportation fund, because those are capital improvements versus kind of ongoing costs. So the way I built the model, and it could be modified any way you like, is to spend it down over 10 years and then maintain at that level for thereafter. There are possible variations, one of those being the emerging contaminants overage that could come up. And then if we wanted to select additional projects, then we could say, well, we want to accelerate spending out of the balance to apply it to this particular project. And then, as I mentioned, Water Street bond financing that can be applied either just to beef up that fund balance or to a special project. On the capital improvement sales tax fund side, we have the debt, which are the certificates of participation, which I detailed before for City Hall and Hamilton Street. We have the fleet management approach, which we've discussed some, and we've worked with the vendor to model further. And so we would be reinstating the vehicle and equipment fund. We've calculated that we should make an initial transfer from the general fund of $100,000 to start that fund. Budgeting for $350,000 a year for the general fund fleet. And bear in mind, our past, you look at our past capital improvement plan, we had varying expenses across general fund and WPC, but as much as 400,000. This kind of level, and then another year 0. This levels out annual expense and gets us a newer, better maintained fleet. So it does have phased-in replacement with about 30 of 52 vehicles in year 1 in the general fund. And then the remainder either are in good enough shape at the moment that it may not make sense to replace them. And then taking into account patrol vehicles in particular that have recently been upfitted, and they are more work to acquire and upfit. And over time, they won't get turned over as rapidly just because of how much work it is to change them out. So, and then it has an ongoing replacement schedule thereafter. So it's modeled to break even at the $350,000 a year, accounting for inflation. In fact, when you get into those out years, once the fleet's completely replaced, and now we're kind of in the model that we described, where we're buying at a government discount and can sell it at market rate a year later, that 350 number should stabilize, if not possibly come down. And that whole approach balances. Put the 100,000 in, maintain the vehicle and equipment fund, and it kind of pays for itself at that $350,000 a year thereafter. Evens out all the spikes and improves the condition of our fleet. On the general fund department side, we conducted a large inventory of our vehicles, our equipment, and our buildings, and that's still ongoing, but started with our insurance schedules, which is a pretty good inventory, as well as what the departments had, and we're continuing to work on that. And then tried to identify other projects. That inventory process is nearly complete. Currently, some of the items that you'll see on that comprehensive financial model may not truly be CIP items. And so we may have to identify some things out of operating that qualify as CIP to free up some funds in the general fund side, but they're in the model just to make sure we're accounting for them. As I said, we may need to look at those eligible funds. We definitely need to refine the schedules for individual items. Departments were able to give me quite a bit of information about scheduling, but you also see there's a lot of them that are just parked in 2026 for now. We're not necessarily proposing we spend all of those out of 2026, but I wanted to get them in the model so we could, as I told the department head, see how broke we really were. So several in that 2026, the capital improvement sales tax fund has a current fund balance of 2.7 million. The final numbers will be impacted a little bit by those refined projections, but all indications to me are that ongoing funding of those identified and anticipated items is sustainable through the capital improvement sales tax fund. But I should say that's what the refinement focused on our continued needs for just ongoing operation, vehicles, equipment, fleet, maintenance, buildings, those PPE, those kind of things. And kind of focusing on that and carving out new initiatives elsewhere. So on the general fund reserve side, tried to identify large costs that are regularly occurring or maybe discretionary on your part, and those have been inventoried in the general fund reserve side. So rather than the CIP sales tax fund above, and they come out of the general fund reserve, and this isn't necessarily an all-inclusive list. Something may come up, you as a council may have something that takes priority that we need to factor in. It's probably the most likely to change over time or be the most subject to change over time. And this approach makes these items discretionary and or deferred, and in place of the operational needs that we've tried to steer into the sales tax fund. And then your consideration and direction are going to be needed on these as much or more than any of the rest. On the water pollution control side, there's the revenue bond debt that's in place there. There's a bond issue from 2007 in the amount of 14 million essentially for treatment and interceptor sewer work. There's an issue from 2010 that'll mature in 2030 for the lagoon bypass and plant improvements for 8.5 million. And then there's the state revolving fund loan that we just entered into for 22 million for the upgrades of the 2 sewer plants. Notes there, that debt service, when you schedule it all out, peaks in 2027, which is right around the corner. Then it declines to 2031 and it levels out thereafter. Essentially, once those first two issues get paid off, then it levels out at a relatively flat payment schedule for the 5 SRF loan. So at the peak is approximately, and once we get past the peak, it's approximately $1 million a year less than what we budgeted in the 2026 budget. So right around the corner, I think there's a financial opportunity for us, but we've got to get over that peak fund expenditure in 2027. So I confirmed that with bond counsel and our financial advisors that was the case in terms of our discretion with respect to when those bonds pay off, that's financial opportunity. There is sufficient bond fund balance that I think we can don't need to be concerned, but we are going to need to forecast that reserve funds being applied to that peak. Or again, I guess maybe as an example of forward looking versus not seeing that coming, what we don't want to do is necessarily bring a rate increase to you for that short duration, if we can ride that out and then be in good shape on the backside. So once we get off peak, then there'll be funds available. The water pollution control fund, capital improvement projects, recurring items are the I&I work that I mentioned, manhole repair and replacement, the V&E schedule. Enterprise has modeled that. We need to do some more work to get that rolled into the water pollution control fund budget. We're focused more on the general fund. And then buildings, that's just a recurring maintenance item. And we're doing a good job in terms of plan expansions, that type of thing. That's something we need to be mindful of. As far as individual items, there's about $500,000 identified in the water pollution control fund budget. That's in the spreadsheet. And then on the reserve fund side, we have the remainder of the McGuire Street sewer cost. And so again, Kristen knows these details better than I do, but there was initially we identified the need for the sewer work. We identified funding. Some of that's already been expensed, and then some will roll over. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, no, that really is it. There was 1.5 million in the current year budget that's going toward that, and then there was $1.5 million in fund balance that we utilized for that total of $3 million cost for the sewer.
And I believe there was some conversation about whether the McGuire project pays back the sewer fund. I would tell you a couple things. Number one, all those other utilities are out there in the corridor having to move to get out of the way of the McGuire Street project. We're not paying any of them back. If we treat ourselves like any other utility, it would be a sewer fund expense. And I think the biggest concern was enterprise being able to do the enterprise main, and we demonstrated that we can fund that, and the WCPC fund is pretty healthy, so I think it's appropriate to have it pay for the sewer work, and it's helpful to the general fund and the street program to have sewer pay for sewer. So that's what we modeled, that's what we're recommending. So as I mentioned, the enterprise sewer replacement's in there as well. The current fund balance is 4.3 million, and at the end of 2026, with those two items accounted for, we're projecting it'll be just a little under $3 million, so still pretty healthy. The solid waste fund, this may or sound familiar to you, I'm not sure, but apparently there's been conversation, I believe, before kind of the final plan was put into place, but while that consulting study was done, there was conversation about a customer convenience center approach, kind of a centralized drop-off point. So for the purpose, and that was previously estimated at $5 million. I'm not necessarily recommending this, in fact, I'm not recommending it, but to model it out, to have a better sense of how this might play out, we have modeled and what would be the likely approach, I guess. So the assumptions, number one, for it to be a fee and not be a tax, the rates cannot pay for something that's not providing service, essentially, in the solid waste fund. So we've come at this from the perspective that we need to stand up the customer convenience center in some way, be able to provide the services, then we could, the rates could reflect the cost of that and essentially pay that back. So the assumptions that we built in are a $5 million loan from the general fund, a 15-year term, 4.5% interest. And so that makes a repayment cost of $459,000 a year for those 15 years. To accomplish that, we would need a 25% rate increase over the rates that we currently have, which is why I'm not recommending it. But you know, as a frame of reference, thought that might be helpful to kind of shape that model a little bit further. I think from all indications, that conversation didn't have a full understanding of what services might be bid, the extent of the recycling that's available in bulk pickup, and the program that we now have. And so, you know, it may not be needed, and certainly may not be needed at the $5 million price tag. Each million, if we took this model, that would be invested is $92,000 a year, which equates to about a 5% rate increase. So if we tried to scale it down in some way, you're still looking at rate increases probably as much or more than anticipated, and in conjunction with rate increases, the contract allows for the service provider annually. So if we do anything other than what we've currently implemented, it's not without a lot more discussion and some associated costs. On the Parks and Recreation Fund side, what I have in the model just replicates the CIP that was adopted in 2024. That CIP doesn't necessarily represent the Parks and Recs plans for 2025, let alone 2026. They brought forward their own budget, or their budget to you recently, and then that to you, believe ratified it at that time. If not, it will be before you shortly. So I'll coordinate with Chris and the Parks Department. Our final document is representative of their budget and their plan. We talked before about the debt service model for Parks and Rec. Again, this is at their discretion and a recommendation, but just a model that we put together. It accounts for the annual debt payments that are growing over time. In 2026, it's about $300,000. In 2032, it peaks at $453,000. And that's a rate of growth that's more rapid than revenue growth. In 2023, it goes back down to 435,000, and that is the final payment to be made. So if we modeled just our current budget and that expense growing at 2.5% a year, then it would take a one-time set aside of reserve funds of 453,000 to offset that growth and kind of balance out their budget so that they can have a more manageable increase in debt expenses. So all of this compared to the adopted 2024 CIP is kind of a frame of reference. It incorporates all the elements of the 2024 CIP with a few caveats. It does not specifically have the West Market Street project in there, which was in, I think, 2029 maybe, for $2 million. And speaking with staff, I think that started out as a community development block grant opportunity that was looked into. And there were a number of other opportunities that were identified, and that application wasn't successful. Not saying that this project shouldn't happen, but I think we'll have an opportunity to talk more about our transportation planning on a funding plan and roll it in once we've done kind of the pavement condition process, put a pavement management plan together. You have a better sense of kind of what the financial picture looks like. Then we can start making some more informed decisions about how this fits in with the rest of the priorities. So the model that we prepared finances large ticket items like fire engines with financing rather than lump sum cash payments. So I think that was something that was really challenging. The 2024 CIP was trying to come up with 1.7 million in, I think, 2027, and then like another 1.4 million in 2028. And as we discussed at the retreat, there is, obviously there's the financing cost of it, but there is a school of thought that synchronizes your expense with the life cycle of the vehicle or the item. It positions you such that when you reach the end of that life cycle, you are in the habit of making those payments and you can fund the replacement. And it also has the beneficiaries of that expenditure paying for it. If you save up money to build a building, buy a large piece of equipment, potentially you've got people that have left the community that didn't see the benefit of it. And then it just kind of, there's some equity in it, theoretically at least. So again, compared to the 2024 CIP, several items were moved to the general fund reserve discussion in order to kind of stabilize operations. That included, and as you know, you have a healthy general fund balance. So if these are priorities, we can certainly talk about how to factor them in and how to schedule them. City Hall security renovations are one of those. HVAC replacements, which Schneider Electric will be bringing forward their possible business plan shortly. An aerial photo that the county does that we're asked to contribute funds for, which sounds like maybe that isn't gonna be needed until like 2030 now rather than 2026. There are a handful of items in terms of fire station work with site work and ramps and parking. Fire station and storm shelter, which seems like a project that has merit. Fire station land on the assumption that we would need and build a third fire station. Fire station training facility. Police shooting range, which police departments clarified that outdoor versus indoor, those prices vary widely. A police tactical vehicle, I think that's the politically correct term for it. I think referred to it as a Bearcat, which is a particular brand, but it is kind of the go-to for that. Public Works satellite storage building. Public Works has made the point that as spread out as the community is, they're forced to come back to one location. I wouldn't even say a central location to get their supplies and salt and sand, things like that. And then rebuilding or replacing the Public Works building that we currently have. So those were all in the general fund reserve discussion category. This model has ongoing annual funding for streets and sidewalks. And I guess that's noteworthy just because looking at the 2024 plan, it had street funding declining from $1 million in 2025 to $500,000 in 2029. Given I guess I presume that we have consensus that street work is a priority. If it's not, you can let me know. But it appears like that's something that we need to continue to apply ourselves to. And then the sidewalk improvement plan also was scheduled to decline to 75,000 in 2028. And not to say that, as I mentioned earlier, we might get to the point where we can back off, but I don't know that we'll be there that quickly. So the model that we have now carries that forward. So that takes us to, I know I talked and didn't let you ask a single question, but that takes us to the question of, do you want to have one more meeting? Give us an opportunity to review this in greater detail and have further discussion with the department heads, myself, finance. You could provide guidance on the model. We could change things in the model and see what it does. You could provide guidance on, you want things included, yes or no, item by item. You can provide guidance on the schedules, whether you think that we're being too aggressive or not. You could certainly provide guidance on the general fund reserve items that I mentioned. And then staff could provide more detail on the loggers' retirement options and costs that came up in discussion. We've reached out to loggers, they provided some estimates. There's a lot going on there. There's initial buy-in cost for that. Then there are a number of different options that you can mix and match, and they carry with them annual ongoing costs. And so to really consider that option, which has merit, and I'm not going to say we couldn't afford, but we just have to be very deliberate in terms of looking at all of those different costs and what plane you get as a result of that. So that's a conversation that we could have. And then I think with this level of detail, you're probably more positioned and maybe more prone to have a strategic planning conversation about, okay, in the light of all of that, now what can we do this, or what about that? So with that, I think I'm gonna take a breath.
Yeah, before we move on it, we've got several visitors here, and this is, I don't know how long this is gonna take, but I appreciate you coming out, but if you don't feel like you want to stick around for this meeting and come back another time, you're welcome to. But anyway, we'll continue with this, but we interested in having another session?
I certainly am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We will get to work on that. Ideally, we're gonna try to fit that in between now and our next meeting. So
Great.
if we can't get it in within the intervening 2 weeks.
Can you put more graphs in there for me?
More
Well,
pie charts.
I'll just recycle the ones that I bet we attached to the agenda this.
It's like 200 of them in there.
I know, it's somewhere this.
That was reached the edge of my technical.
I appreciate the trend lines. I know you put the trend lines in for me, but
Yeah.
maybe some of them don't need trend lines when there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I certainly appreciate all the work that every member of the staff did. Thank you all very
Yeah.
much.
Detail's phenomenal.
It
Thank you
is.
very much. Presentation was great, but
And
takes
Yeah.
a lot of people to put that together. And all the department heads too. It's,
yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, the department heads have seen some of this right along with you, just because of how much work it was and how down to the wire it got to be. But we're scheduling meetings and have an opportunity to go over it with them as well. And we did have budget conversations on the front end for the flat budget, try to take into account any feedback we had for them. I'm hopeful that building out this model is positive, that helps us kind of get our legs under us going forward.
It's a lot to grasp.
yeah, I'm not certain we need much discussion on what you presented tonight. If we go to another session and then we get into details,
Sure.
but it was really well done.
but just in general, having expenses better known and more kind of spread out over time, rather than, like you said, trying to find almost 2 million each time we need a new fire truck or a new, something that we know we're gonna need. That seems very logical to me, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. If you don't have a scorecard, we're heading to item 6 now. So. Item 6.1, an ordinance accepting dedication of public easement for the main from Enterprise Lift Station to Cahill in the city of Warrensburg, presented by Phil Adlich, interim public works director.
Evening, Mayor, City Council members. So just a few years ago, maybe 15, 20, somewhere around there, we started talking about Enterprise Lift Station being taken offline. So we started this actually last year, a year and a half ago, where we were talking to the property owners. Of course, OWN Engineering came out and decided that where we're going to put the pipe and whose property it's going to go on. We started talking to the owners at that time. got to a consensus on how much they would accept for that right of easement, and then also the temporary construction easement as well. So we've got into that contract, we've signed it and paid for it, and now we're just presenting it to you, saying that, you know, it's good to go, and hopefully you all get the budget stuff worked out and we'll have the project where we'll actually start it soon. So all that to say that we're bringing this ordinance in front of you so that we can accept those easements as public. So staff recommends that we approve it.
And just one clarification, this all got set in motion. Staff had the authority based on the authorization to go get the easement. This is the formal process of accepting the easements, executed, get them recorded, get them on the books. So for anybody following along at home, this isn't staff already did it, and now we're asking you to rubber stamp
This
it.
is the, yeah, sorry.
No, that's
That's the way that sounded.
Do I
Any
read it
questions?
right? Let's see, one of them gets $1 and one gets $10. Is that right? What is that about?
Well, that's just
What is-
that's a place.
I could write peppercorn, I could write
Oh.
a handshake, I could
Excellent.
write just about anything.
Excellent, okay.
It means one of them was done on the template that has $10 and one was done on the template that has $1.
Gotcha. And one is permanent and one is temporary.
Each one has a permanent, each one has a temporary.
Gotcha.
Temporary for the construction purposes, permanent because that's all I do.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand that. Thank you.
It's often the temporary is wider to account for equipment.
Sure. Okay,
And then the temporary also, after a year, after you guys accept the maintenance of the sewer line, that temporary 1 year afterwards will no
we'll
longer.
cease, but we'll have the permanent, which is,
So we'll have the permanent that we can get in there and work on it.
And then we put the easement back to the surface, back to the way it was.
right. Not with rocks, which someone who shall not be named, some company, which is not the city, did in my yard.
We'll say
Not
this
grass.
easement does run under a creek also, so that creek will be lined with rocks, so.
That's okay. As long as it's not rocks instead of grass.
You know, every place where it's flat farmland or
Yeah.
the Curtis's property will be put back to usable land.
Gotcha.
Are you going through the cornfield?
It's right on the edge of the cornfield. Pretty much stays along that creek. And follows the creek, then goes through the creek and then follows the north side of the creek.
Yeah.
Mike did ask me to be more specific with the manhole south of. I did give him numbers. He thought that was a little too specific.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
I had the north and eastern numbers and
We had the engineering station numbers if you knew how to read those.
Right. No, I do not. I don't have any.
Any further questions for Phil or anyone? Nope.
Have you read the,
Oh, sorry.
did you read the red ones? It's already been read.
We need to go to second reading.
Yeah, motion to move to second reading by title.
If that's what you'd want to do. Osborne,
Yes.
Latari,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
An ordinance accepting dedication of public easement for the sewer main from Enterprise Lift Station to Cahill in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Latari,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 6.2, an ordinance approving and adopting the storm drainage and utility easements for the Evergy substation located at 300 West Pine Street in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri.
good evening, Mayor, City Council members.
Yeah.
So this one, I don't know if you know, Evergy is moving the substation on the north side of Pine to the south side of Pine. In that area, we have some stormwater and we have some sewer. So with the way that they're constructing it, it would have covered up those sewer and stormwater. So we needed to reroute it, not us. They are going to reroute it. But we had to rededicate. We already have easements, but we needed to rededicate new easements so that we have access to those or the, utilities. With that, they came in, we did all the paperwork. Adam kindly looked at it, approved it. In fact, I think he wrote it. He wrote it, I'm pretty sure. And then, so we submitted it so that you all can approve it, so that we take ownership of that and are able to work with it later. It does also cover an easement for Evergy for the power lines to go over across the line to the park. So that easement's also there, which that will be our easement, but Evergy will be the one who does all that work. So, staff recommends that we approve this ordinance. Any questions?
They've cleared quite a bit out there.
Yeah, they have. They've been working hard. And they will dig and reroute the sewer, and they will dig and reroute the stormwater. So,
And they won't be on any adjacent property owners.
so they purchased all of that land all the way up to Blind Blue Park. And
Or south, they won't be impeding on anyone's property south.
Railroad
That-
Railroad
right
tracks
there,
south,
so
or so
Yeah.
to
it's
the
all-
east,
Yeah.
west.
they went west. From Warren west.
Motion to move to second reading by title only.
Osborne,
Yes.
Latari,
Yes,
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes,
An ordinance approving and adopting the storm drainage and utility easements for the Evergy substation located at 300 West Pine Street in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri. This is for adoption or rejection. Osborne,
Yes.
Latari,
yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
yes.
Thank you.
Item 7.1. A resolution of the council of the city of Warrensburg approving the city manager to execute an agreement with the University of Central Missouri's Division of Art and Design Art Lease Program for the installation of public art in City Hall, presented by Marcy Barnhart, Tourism Director.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, really quick out. Okay, just want to make sure. Good evening. I am so excited to bring before you tonight this resolution to approve the city manager to execute the agreement with UCM's Division of Art and Design Art Lease Program for the installation of public art in City Hall. The Warrensburg Arts Commission, I'll interrupt myself. I am the City of Warrensburg staff liaison on the Arts Commission. So tonight I'm wearing that hat. And then Councilmember Osborne also serves as the council liaison. Councilman Osborne, if I've missed anything, please chime in at any moment. The Warrensburg Arts Commission is proposing the placement of 7 art pieces through the program in City Hall. The program consists of artwork that's been completed by students, faculty, and alumni of the program. The lease covers a 1-year agreement with the option to renew. The Arts Commission has approved the proposal and the design. They approved that at their April 21st board meeting. A detailed design and layout of the information of the program is included in your packet, so you're able to see the pieces and where they will be located. There is a fee for participating in the lease program. It's $100 per art piece. That will be covered through the Warrensburg Arts Commission Public Arts Fund. So that will be taken care of there. The city is required to have insurance on the art pieces while the piece is installed at City Hall. And big kudos to the finance department. They were able to find out that that is already covered through the current insurance plan that the city has for City Hall. So there will be no additional cost for the insurance coverage.
So did they provide value per
They did.
item?
Yes, they did. Yeah,
Okay.
they sure did. And that was part of it. And so that's why, thank you for bringing that up. That's why you see they approved the Arts Commission approved the plan April 21. And here we are, August 11th. We've taken a little bit to get a hold of the artist to get the value of those pieces to get that to number so that finance could reach out to our insurance company and provide that. So thank you for asking that. I would like to highlight the location of these art pieces. They will be located in the hallway near the stairway that leads to the lower level and the elevator. Now, one wall, which is our north wall that you're very familiar with, it has the rather large, I did not measure that. And but it has the rather large Rethink McGuire poster. The piece that will be located on that north wall is, I believe, 24 inches by 18. It'll be very minimal. So that rest of that wall will be able to be utilized for a smaller poster that the Public Works is working on getting that. So there will still be a presence for Rethink McGuire. There will still be that information provided to those that are seeking that information. And then we'll have a little bit of art for them to enjoy while they're there. Like I said, I'm excited to bring this project before you. Allison Robbins is the chair of the Warrensburg Arts Commission. Allison, the Arts and Public Places Committee, Jamie Platt have been working tirelessly on this project to bring it to fruition. A big thank you to Jody Schneider. Jody helped us out with the current artwork that was in City Hall. That art had been placed for quite some time. And so it was able to be returned to the artist. And I'm excited to report that we were able to secure a couple of pieces for the Warrensburg Visitor Center. And we've had the artist come in and sign that. So we'll be able to keep those pieces out for the public viewing. Are there any questions regarding the resolution that's before you tonight?
No, I think it's great.
It's great. Just a quick question. The Arts and Public Places Committee, that's a committee of the Arts Commission, is that right?
It's actually Allison Robbins serves on the committee as because she is the chair of the Arts Commission.
Yeah.
But Jamie Platt serves on that. She does not serve on the Arts Commission.
Oh, gotcha.
Mick Lurman serves on that committee as well, Arts and Public Places. And I believe it's just the three. I apologize, Susan, Councilman Latari. I don't know exactly everyone. I don't
No,
remember.
that's all right.
But believe
I just
that
wondered
it's
if it was a
on
committee
the three.
under the commission, but
Yes,
it's a
it is.
separate. Oh, okay, it is
It's
part of the
separate,
commission.
though. Well, it's a commission, or it's a committee consisting of members or appointed members from the commission.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Did I make that as clear as mud?
Right.
Motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Thanks,
Thank
Marcia.
you.
Osborne,
Yes.
Latari.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8.1 is mayoral appointments. And I'll just mention, if you want to speak tonight, there's a sign up sheet in that corner if you haven't signed it yet, because that'll be the next item after this. So mayoral appointments, motion to approve mayoral recommendations to appoint Jennifer Fowler as a member for the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, filling an unexpired term through October 2025. And B, Annie Alford as the University of Central Missouri UCM representative, non-voting member for the Diversity and Inclusion Commission for a 3-year term through August 2028.
Motion to approve.
Osborne.
Yes.
Latari.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, we have a few speakers tonight. When I call your name, if you come up, you have 3 minutes to talk. And in regular city council, it's not a back and forth. So you have 3 minutes just to state your viewpoint, whatever you have. You get the names. First one, Terry Smith. Hi, Terry. If you just say your name and
Want me to stand
Yeah.
this direction?
yes, just face that, take that lectern right there.
Hi.
Your name and address, thanks.
My name's Terry and it's 109 West Colton in Warrensburg. This is something that is trying to drive people to downtown to and be safe. The people that work here, the people that live here, and the people that we hope will come and shop here. It's about the homeless that we have. It's about the safety of after hours, which is great that we've got the lighting now. And just trying to work collectively across different groups. And I've already spoke with the police department. I've already spoke with you. So I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know there's several other people that would like to speak, but it's mainly just about safety and driving people into the community and staying here to shop and to work and live.
Thank you, Terry. Tom Shaw.
Good evening. My name is Tom Shaw. I'm a CPA and owner of Shaw Accounting Group. The address is 201 North Holden. Point of reference, if you take Holden Street, across the train tracks going north at the four-way stop or the northeast corner of that four-way stop. Right there at the corner is a beautiful plant stand and plants, and it's structured in such a way that people can pull up a chair, 2 or 3 people at a time. And it's very common for them to do that. Smoke cigarettes. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but they will harass people asking for money or cigarettes whenever virtually anyone will come by. I've had some clients stop into the office and say, before they even got out of their car, people would be approaching, asking for money or cigarettes or any other assistance they could get. I've had clients come in and say they swear that there were drug transactions going on that corner because they saw money exchange hands and a baggie of something. I think it's important to say that in front of our office is 2 big plate glass windows, and we're a small firm. I've got 2 office managers that sit there in the open and can monitor the door most of the time. But if one of them is gone, the other 2 employees are in an office, so they can't really see somebody coming to the door. But both of those ladies are familiar enough with the people sitting at the corner that they will call into the office and ask us to open the side door to let them in, as opposed to walking around the corner. Thankfully, our door is kind of hard to push open. There's a sign that says push hard, but generally nobody comes in that way. We have had somebody, when they see that nobody is there that can see the door, they will literally run in and steal our candy jar with candy in it. Not a big deal, but it's frustrating. There's also been a situation on a weekend night where 2 guys were messing around and somehow or another one got thrown through the plate glass window. So I got a call like at 1 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night from the Warrensburg Police Department to come up and repair that so nobody could get in. But I mean, those are just a couple of instances that I can think of, and I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you, Tom. Max Ridenhour.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Max Ridenhour, address 317 North Holden Street. Before I get started tonight, I would like to just disclose that my remarks tonight are not a representation of any of the organizations I represent or the business that I run here in town. I was born and raised here in Warrensburg. I've seen a lot that's happened here in Warrensburg. I've owned a business downtown and I've lived downtown for quite a few years now. And I do have to say that, the marks that both Ms. Smith and Mr. Shaw said are totally accurate, 100%. I see this on a daily basis. I'm coming up on about a year now. About a year ago, pretty close to now, I was attacked on the sidewalk. Walking home from work, 5 o'clock, Thursday afternoon. Just some dude walks up on me and starts berating me, cussing me out, physically attacking me. I was lucky enough that this happening 5 till 5 on a Thursday afternoon that a police officer saw what was going on and pulled over to assist and was able to handle that situation, take him away in cuffs in the end. But what if that were to happen an hour later? What if it was my girlfriend out on the sidewalk instead? It's to the point that my girlfriend won't even go walk out on her own. We have to park about a half block away from our apartment, just nature of living downtown, right? I have to walk with her every single day, day or night. It doesn't matter because she doesn't feel safe being out and about. We are constantly harassed walking next to some of these buildings, their hotspots and things like that. People are refusing to get out of their cars. They're like, well, we'd rather go shop at another business here elsewhere in town instead of downtown because we don't feel safe parking our cars downtown, where we are being berated before we even get out of our cars. We have people coming up to our doors before we're even able to get out of our cars. How are we supposed to be inviting? How are we supposed to say, hey, come to Warrensburg, come shop here, come dine here, come live here? And we have this major issue going on. And now I understand that this has been an issue for multiple years. I'm just hoping that we can continue to make effort in resolving some of these issues. Not saying that's any particular group. I'm not saying it's any particular individual, but it is an ongoing issue that we need to identify and we need to try to resolve. I will say, I will continue on that there have been multiple situations over the past couple years where I've been berated, just cussed out walking down the sidewalk down Pine Street, middle of the day. I mean, it is happening all the time, everywhere, and it's happening to anybody. So I just ask that there be some action taken, not just tonight, but as we move into the future, try to protect our downtown, try to protect our community, and continue to invite new people into our town safely and effectively. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Rick Zuniga.
How you doing?
Good.
I'm Rick Zuniga. I'm retired military. My wife and I own Legends Gym since 2021. And since that time, there's been some quiet issues, the same with everyone else is having down here downtown, is with the homeless and with the mentally ill. That being said, I've had to walk out my gym members, the females, out to their car because some of them have been chased. One of them, just recently, she was chased and had it on her phone. He was trying to get in the door. Everyone knows this gentleman. He lives in one of the mental houses down the street. And I wanted to get her to report this, and she did it because she was scared if he finds out, he's gonna come after her. My wife goes to the gym at 5 a.m. Our gym is 24 hours. We have females coming and going. We have cops. We have military. They come and go all the time, and this is an issue. One of the gentlemen that owns a business downtown, a coffee shop, somebody exposed himself to them in a window. Then another person came in and threw a coffee cup at one of the staff employees. They called the cops. Nothing was really done about it. He went across the street to another place, started an issue there. We just heard about an hour spill of all these taxes that we pay. We pay all these taxes. We pay all these licenses to keep this business open. We also now, a lot of us have to compete with the big boxes that are coming in, the Cold Stone, all the other coffee shops. People aren't going to want to come downtown because it's dangerous because of their homeless issues. They're going to go to these big box shops. We're down here paying our taxes, paying what we need to keep this place going, but we're not getting protection downtown. We understand that there's a homeless issue. We understand we're human. I personally myself, we're helping get a lady into a home. She has a job now. We're helping her with her kids. We're raising money for her, but we can't do this for everybody. So it's going to get to the point where we're not going to be here. We're not going to be down there to pay our taxes. You're not going to have all this money that you need to pay to get these roads, all this stuff that needs to get done. So something needs to get done because we all look out for each other. I look out for my fellow members down here that own businesses. They're not going to want to come down here and get their hair cut. They're not going to want to get ice cream. They're not going to want to get coffee. They're going to go over here where the homeless aren't at. So we're just asking for a little bit of help us out. Somehow patrolling. I don't know. It's like there's even an idea about preaching up is they sit around all day. Now lately, it's been a big influx, and they're younger men. Can we have them cleaning up the parks that we all complain about? The parks are dirty. Pay them in food. They get a meal card voucher. They can go get food here and there, help them out some, but they also in the back. They're not just sitting there outside of the library. And everyone knows that no one likes going to the library. They're not taking their kids because it's dangerous because they're out there doing drugs. We've had to call the cops or the ambulance because somebody passed out from drugs. This little town shouldn't have to deal with those issues at all because we're way too small for that. But we're just asking for a little help on that. Something can be done. That'd be great.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary McCord.
Believe she's gone.
Oh, okay. Item 10, miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council.
Nothing from me.
I don't have anything.
Susie.
Thank you.
Item 11, city staff updates. 11.1, city manager report.
I think you know what we've been doing lately, working on a budget, but one item that I think you're aware of as well, it relates to Cedar Court and the recent conversation we had and met with the residents there. Myself, the mayor, Phil Adlich and Dave McCannon, felt like that was a really good conversation. Had an opportunity to, well, not in nearly as much detail as tonight, but walk them through kind of the bigger picture that we're trying to assess. Also, describe to them our understanding of how the process had played out previously, gave them the map that you saw as part of your retreat in terms of the repairs that had previously been done in the areas proposed for repair. And when all is said and done, about 50% of that roadway will be repaired and replaced. So they seem very appreciative. It sparked a lot of broader conversation about how city government works and a healthy appreciation for that. So I think it all turned out very well in that regard. Other than that, there are a handful of things going on with McGuire, and I'm sure Phil will report on that. We do, I think, have some opportunities now to look at just the scope of the project as it's coming together, and they're getting, and we know the budget parameters to make sure that some things that may have been ad alternates or things that may have been not factored into the project, just small segments of pavement along the edges, things like that, that we can take up and roll into the project possibly. So that's looking good. The other thing I would tell you is we recently conducted interviews for designers for the cost share design grant process and the actual design work for the 50 highway overpass. And so conducted the interviews, identified kind of and those interviews included Navigate, who we're using as an owner's rep, myself, Kristen, Phil, and the mayor, identified a firm that came out on top, and we're actively working out scope negotiations and cost negotiations with them. And we'll bring that back to you shortly. And we're staying in communication with Missouri Department of Transportation about that, since it is their grant program. I'm sure there's other things I'm forgetting, but those are the highlights.
Thank you, Mike. 11.2, city staff update, administrative services department.
Nothing for me. We've just been working on budget.
Thanks, Kristen. 11.3, city staff update, city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I placed a report in the packet and I'm willing to sit or stand for questions if you have any. Otherwise, I have nothing further.
I was pleased to see that you have found somebody to scan in your documents that you were going to use the grants for.
The grant that was temporarily halted. There was money budgeted to help pay for scanning work in the budget. And so this probably will not cover, the amount that was budgeted won't cover the entire project that we had hoped to receive state of Missouri funds for, but it will cover a portion of it. So at least it'll get us started.
Yeah.
We may have to break it into phase 1 and phase 2. So
That's great.
yeah,
I
thank you.
do have one question. Ms. McCord has returned, and can she speak even though we've gotten past that?
Sure.
Yes.
Mary, would you like to come up? Just state your name and address, please. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Mary McCord from 410 Grover. I'll make it clear, I'm not here on behalf of Journey Home. And I'll probably come poke at this a little bit at every meeting. We do need to do something to help our homeless. And I'm often asked, where are they coming from? They come from our community, most of them. Some of them are 2 or 3 generations here. I think we have such a great community that people want to believe we're busing them in from Kansas City or Sedalia. There might have been 2 or 3 done like that about a year or so ago. That is just not our situation. We have homeless people. They come and they go. About 25% of them come and go into a different city and go to Clinton and come back. I'd say about 50% of them live here. Some of them are wage earners who just can't make it. So homeless means you're living someplace without electricity, without utilities. They're living in a van or a car. I don't know what the city council can help us do about it, but I just want to always keep it in your mind because services are being cut. And the reason services are being cut is because grant money is being cut, and I'm sure your grant money is being cut. But we don't have to have grant money. What we have to have is some determination and some volunteers and some time. A lot of things that require money can be replaced with time. I think we have sufficient laws on the books. You could, if you were upset with somebody and they were misbehaving on your property, you can charge them with trespassing. But there comes a point where if they're just standing there or they're loitering or they're sitting or they're walking, it doesn't do a lot of good to send them to jail or to fine them or whatever. They don't have the money and they have no place to go. So I think we need to think about the fact that these are our citizens with no place to go. Are there any questions?
Yeah, this isn't a back and forth time right now.
Okay,
So
thanks. That's all.
thank you,
I have to
Doctor.
say.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Item 11.4, city staff update, community development.
Provided information in the packet regarding our monthly numbers on the solid waste. And as we thought, we are seeing our unit count go back up here with students returning and we starting up at the beginning of August. And our tonnage report, which reports a month behind, so numbers for July were a little bit down versus what they were in June, which we would also expect. And I think as our unit count goes back up, we will see that number go up as well. But those numbers, as well as the numbers for the other divisions in community development, are provided in the package.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11.5, city staff update, fire department, July activity report.
Nothing additional to add.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Item 11.6, city staff update, parks and recreation department, Chris.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. Just real quick, I'm sure that you saw the update with Lions Lake and the process that we went through out there that staff followed. We were able to work with a company called Midwest Lakes Management and Public Works, and our two departments in that company helped transfer fish from Lions Lake to a stocking pond at UMC Farms. We had a rough count of around 400 fish that we were able to move on that day. And from talking to them out at the stocking pond, they're all doing well. Fishing classes and other youth events happen out at this location. So it was a very positive transfer that took place and much appreciated. And I've received several calls from those who are wanting to go out to the lake while it is draining. And actually I was down there this evening. If you've probably seen it recently, it's down to the northwest end by the levee, and fishermen were out there actually this evening. So a lot of activity still going on, and I just want to give that update and entertain any questions you may have.
I've seen people ask, where's the water going? I think we know where it's going, but if you want to explain where the water's going, so.
Bill, you want to explain? So the water is going out the relief valve there at the dam. It's going in a unnamed stream, and then it's heading to eventually getting to Post Oak. There down to Bear Creek and eventually on probably to the Mississippi. So
Could we have a sign that says, please drive slow and please do not run over the turtles?
Are they exiting the lake?
The turtles are the turtles have to leave.
But
I was walking, there were, day before yesterday, I was walking, and in one spot, there were 4 smashed turtles. And I
So I
helped one
asked about
across.
that a while ago.
I did help one across. It wasn't smashed. I did help one across. But then later on, when I was in the car, I had to turn around, go back and help another one across. I just need people to slow down and don't run up, don't hit them.
Yeah.
Slow down for the turtles.
Look that down. A deer.
You need any part-time help?
Yeah.
There's a turtle crossing
Yeah.
sign. We can do.
We can just put Jan out there.
Thank
Little
you.
sign.
$7.94.
I'm sure we can buy that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Item 11.7, city staff update, police department. Chief Munsterman.
Evening, Mayor, Council. First off, I would like to address people speaking tonight. I feel for each and every one of you. I've listened to all the stories. Take great pride in keeping this community safe. Okay? So I'd like to say that my heart does go out to everybody on that. Elise and Joel brought something to me last week. I walked approximately 4 months ago around downtown, checking with community members. But Elise and Joel brought up an individual that had possibly exposed himself to their daughter and walked around their daughter harassing. I encourage everyone, if that type of stuff is occurring, laws being broken, please press charges. Please fill out a statement, please press charges. I can't force you to or make you, neither can an officer, but please take that amongst yourselves if that kind of stuff's happening. Elise and Joel, that individual ended up being in crisis, looking into it, and then that individual ended up going with us that day, and we were able to get him some court-ordered help. So just speaking on some of those issues. So that's really all I have. There's not a clear, perfect answer for any of this. We'll keep doing the best that we can.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I want to say too that every community's got this of any size, Columbia, Missouri, Springfield or whatever, and it's such a tough situation. And we don't profile, we don't pick up people with that. So
There's some pretty strict Eighth Amendment issues when it comes to dealing with status offenses. So we have to be very careful about how we deal with those things. Obviously, anytime we get reports of assaults, anything like that.
So-
Police department.
We had reports of possible narcotics being sold downtown as well, and we investigated that and actually located some of the bags that were possibly being used, and it was some items being left for individuals, not narcotics that day. I'm not saying that's not happening. However, we do have some other operations that we're working on. I'm not gonna go into detail on, but we are aware of it. Appreciate you bringing it to our attention. So thank you.
thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Item 11.8, city staff update, Public Works Department, Phil.
Even mayor and council members. So multiple projects always going on. Lions Lake, it is draining. Just a brief timeline after it drains, hopefully it doesn't fill back up with more rain. It's going to be empty for a set period of time. They said about a month, but it will depend on how well it dries. And that way they can get the equipment in there and start moving dirt. So we've got a little bit of time on that one. It's unfortunately unsightly and does have a smell to it, but we're gonna try and work as fast as we can and get things done.
Roughly how deep are we looking to go? What do you?
So I don't know if you'll remember the drawings on the northeast corner. It's gonna be about a 7 foot from the level it's at now. It's going to go down 7 foot. And then it's about the same on the southeast corner. So it's gonna be deep in those spots, which will give us somewhere, I think, around 13 foot depth. So for a little pond or lake, it's not terrible, but it's not super deep either. The spot to the west will still be around 7-8 foot deep. So depending on the top water level. The plant expansion project is going along. There's a big swimming pool, big portion of the dirt dug out for the SBR at the east plant. Lots of dirt has been moved and they did have one hiccup where the dump truck broken axle. So, but that wasn't our fault. They took care of that. So lots of minor issues here and there, but the project's going rather well. McGuire is coming along, lots of new concrete going out. They did smooth 2 spots out today, so trying to make it smoother temporarily until we start actually digging up the road. Again, I think there's now 3 concrete crews out there doing work. Water company was supposed to be done and off Friday. I didn't get an update on that today. Hopefully they're off, but that's one more utility that is off, done with McGuire. We're still having to deal with the gas Spire utility that's out there and Evergy's out there. But Evergy's more on the sides, putting up those poles, moving wire. Communication companies are needing to get their lines off of old poles so they can be removed. Lots of stuff going on, something new every day. And then it's still very bumpy and soon we'll get there. Just a little bit, hang on, a little bit longer. We've got more projects coming up. I know that our project, Jason is working on stormwater issues, Cedar Court. That's supposed to be in the paper tomorrow, and I believe it's on our web page today. And we'll be waiting for, it's got to be out there for a bit so that we can get bids to come back, and we'll be bringing that to you. So lots going on. Questions?
We appreciate your department's juggling a lot of projects right now, so.
Yeah. Cost share this, S4A, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Item 11.9, city staff update, Warrensburg Convention Visitors Bureau.
Nothing further, but I would like to allocate my time to Phil.
Thanks, Marcy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Nothing further.
Oh, all right, Phil.
I'm good.
You don't mind.
All right, we're moving into closed session. Item 12.1, motion to close part of this meeting pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri relating to 1, legal actions, causes of action or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representative and its attorneys. Thanks.
Need a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
No, not adjourn. Go into close
Moving to closed session.
Move to closed session.
Osborne,
Yes.
Latari.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Euler. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
That was tough. We haven't done that for a while.
No, we just.
Boy, Jim's missing all.